Welcome to the Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage webinar series. Today we're going to be showcasing the ACHKnowledge portal and registration process. I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Whadjuk people and the lands for which I'm on today, and also extend that respect and acknowledgement to Aboriginal people and lands throughout the state of Western Australia. So for registration of the portal, the first time users will need to register to verify their information, and this can be done through a number of ways: through a local portal account on the left, and this can be done from either signing up here or from an invitation from the department. You can use the socials, Facebook and Google, or MyGov ID if you have one. The third option on the right is a local login for department offices. So a user would come to here and register through this page. And today's example, we're going to step through the Google. So you'd go to the Google website, you'd log in with your Google account. You provide consent for the sharing of the information. And for the verification process, you'll need to enter in your Google email again here. And this is creating a unique code that will be sent to your email. So you need to step out and go into your Google email, copy the verification code, and paste it in here. For people who have organizational accounts and prefer not to use their personal emails, you can do that through the local login. But through Facebook or Google or MyGovID, you'd need to use your personal email. So coming to the end of this process, you'd go to register. And then once you're into the portal, you'd need to update the first thing you do is update your personal details. So these are details which are stored within the ACHKnowledge DPLH system. And when we use notifications or pushing information to a portal account holder, this is the information that we'd use to do that, so it needs to be up to date. There's also the option to create organizational accounts. This is going to be really useful for organizations that have multiple people working on submissions or applications regarding Aboriginal cultural heritage. So at the end of the process, you'll get a case number. This is really useful if you need to follow up on correspondence about that registration process or setting up an organizational account. The other way of registering is to receive a link which has a unique link code from DPLH. And you'd redeem that invitation code by entering it in from the link and then set up an account that way. So once a user has registered for the system, they'll come to the home page, and now we'll give a bit of a demonstration on what that home page looks like. So the home page has draft applications, submitted applications, and determined applications. And a portal user can use the comments functions to communicate with the department about those previous cases. You can also alter your view based on the type or the created on or the stage of the application to organize that information. So the portal is going to be very useful for people to track their information that they are either drafting or have submitted, or if it's come to an endpoint to determine applications. It'll also be really useful in information that comes back from the department to them or to another organization or individual about for a request for comment. So the tabs along the top will all have options about submitting information specific to a certain process. So the first tab is about the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Directory and submitting information or requesting information. You can register or update Aboriginal Cultural Heritage information, register a secret or sacred object. You can amend the information about an existing object on the directory. You can report Aboriginal ancestral remains and also amend that information too if it changes. For instance, if the location of those remains change throughout that process of repatriating the Aboriginal ancestral remains back to country, that amendment can happen through that process. An application for a protected area can be started within the portal, and also where protection agreements have been developed between organisations about the management of Aboriginal cultural heritage, they can be lodged here. Requesting access to a survey report, and this will likely happen in the due diligence process where information about a survey to enable someone to continue their due diligence process. And when a survey report is completed, it can be submitted through the portal. The advice function is going to be very useful for people to ask very specific questions, because you can map that advice in the map tool within when you go into the lodging the advice. And this is going to be very useful for queries that are very specific about an area. It might be about requesting information about who the knowledge holders are, requesting information from the directory about a specific area, queries about a process, and it will assist in, I suppose, tracking that advice as well. There'll be a record of it in your portal account. There's also the option to report harm if someone is aware of harm that has occurred to Aboriginal cultural heritage. You can report it through here, and again, it has the mapping functions that you can be very specific in locating where that harm has occurred, which will assist in the processes that will follow as a result of the report. There's the ability to start an Aboriginal Cultural Heritage permit notice. So this is where, after the due diligence process, where someone might have an activity and there may interact with Aboriginal cultural heritage, and there may be some level of harm. There's the option to start that permit notice here, and that the evolution of that that processes the permit application, which follows the notice stage. Similarly for the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Management Plan notice. So if a management plan is required for the Tier 3 activities that will harm Aboriginal cultural heritage, that process can be started here. And that's the management plan notice is really at the once the management plan has already been established. So the consultations have occurred, the investigations have occurred, and it's really about the management plan has already been formed with the Aboriginal party, and this is about the notice and then coming to agreement on the terms of the plan. And similar, like the permit notice, the management plan notice, after the time period, the applicant will have the ability to apply for the management plan once that notice process is finished. And also options to transfer a permit, the ownership of that permit if the owner changes, and similar for the plan as well. And the last tab is regarding compliance. There may be conditions on a management plan or a permit, and if there are reporting conditions, then that reporting can happen through here. Also, determination of substantially commenced is about the extension of existing consents under Section 18 from the Aboriginal Heritage Act 1972. So that's where there's a request for an extension of that Section 18 that may be going to expire. And for historical Section 18s, that's 10 years. And finally, you can update your personal information. There's a space for notifications. So if the department has pushed out a notification regarding a process, that will be visible here. And you can update any of that information, which, especially for contact information, is very relevant because there are many processes that require that procedural fairness in terms of the evolution of an application, especially for management plans or notice or permits uh, for a protected area. There's requirements for different organisations to contact, so having updated contact information is going to be very relevant in these processes. In terms of notifications, there's the system has the ability to create, I suppose, the communication between different parties. I think post the 1st of July, there's going to be time to improve the abilities in the system. So thank you very much for listening to the webinar, and hope it's given you an overview of the registration process and the portal. In terms of ACHKnowledge as a system as a whole, it's good to give just an overview of the different aspects of ACHKnowledge, one being the portal, which is obviously the external user interface where notifications are received, and a main part of the portal, which is submitting of information, whether it's about Aboriginal cultural heritage, places, cultural landscapes, Aboriginal ancestral remains, secret and sacred objects, and applications for permits and management plans. The other large component of ACHKnowledge is the directory side, which is the Aboriginal Cultural Heritage Information System, which uses that geographic information interface to provide the public access to directory information. And then the third component, which is the internal DPLH staff use of ACHKnowledge, which is going to be a great benefit to administrating the information, all the information that comes in, and the the pathways of those applications and processes that the legislation requires for, I suppose, the submission to reach its endpoint, or whatever that is, whether it be ACH ending on the directory, ending up on the directory, or a management plan coming into its approval state. We do have more of these webinars planned, so we hope you have got something valuable out of this session. Thank you very much.